Hey everybody, how you doing? We here for another edition of Bring the Smoke with Senator Mamie Locke. My favorite senator. I don't care who get mad. I don't care. I apologize. You know what I'm saying? I know I love a lot of y'all, but I love her because she keeps it so daggone real. So I won't seem so bad today. Not that we're bad, but we gonna come at you because I know. Now this literally Bring the Smoke. Like I was telling her a few moments ago, it was called Bring the Smoke because we were supposed to be doing it in the smoke line. Then I got scared of church folk. Then we stopped doing it. I mean, it was kind of like it was dark, but I was scared of church folk. And they were like, oh, you in there with a cigar loud. So church people scared me. So anyway, so now here we are. But so now we kind of play on the word bring the smoke. Like we're going to bring controversy. Not that it's controversially wrong, but we're going to make sure that we speak truth to power. And some people may get upset because when you stand for stuff, a lot of people get upset. This is my longest introduction ever because I'm so excited that I got, you know what I'm saying? Never doing an introduction this long ever. I'm telling you, see, you can feel it. She might think I'm just BSing, but you know, go say, I just like, hey, I'm so-and-so, introduce yourself. But I'm so excited to have her here. And we're going to get into a deep discussion, but I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a lot of things that she does because you're running right now too, right?
No, I ran last year.
Yeah, they ain't got no, they know not to run against her anyway. So anyway, go ahead and let them know what's going on, Senator.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mamie Locke, and I represent the 23rd Senate District, which is all of the city of Hampton and half of the city of Newport News. Not quite sure if this is my district, but I know that it's half of the city of Newport News. I've been in the Senate for 21 years. And prior to that, I was the mayor of the city of Hampton and on the city council just prior to that. Been involved in politics practically all of my life. Engaged in politics when I was in high school.
Wow.
And that was a direct result of a 17-year-old, somebody who was a little bit older than me, being shot on the street coming home from work.
Wow.
And because of the National Guard, local police, state police going onto the campus of Jackson State University, shooting up a girl's dorm. And he was an innocent bystander. They had no business being on the campus anyway.
Wow.
But I was a sophomore in high school.
So the National Guard shot him?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I was a sophomore in high school. And in my high school, everyone said, okay, we're going to walk out and we're going to protest and we're going to walk over to Jackson State, which wasn't a little short walk.
Right.
In protest for what the National Guard and local police and state police had done on that campus. And the principal at the time, I mean, this is early 70s, you don't defy, your principal or anybody in school or anything. Said anybody who walks out is going to be suspended. You can't do that. You must not do that. But we did it anyway. So it was like, suspend us.
Wow.
You can't suspend everybody.
Wow.
So we did it because, it wasn't even necessarily an act of defiance. This was a 17-year-old walking down the sidewalk from work, and they had no business on that campus anyway.
Wow.
So, and that's kind of like how my activism got started.
Wow.
And so it wasn't something that just started yesterday or even 20 years ago or even when I ran for city council. This was something that has been a part of what I wanted to do and be a part of the community in which I live.
Wow. My story's similar, but mine ain't as deep as hers. I mean, she channeled the whole National Guard. So when I was young, when I was in high school, it was this store called J&L, and I called it jail the way they treated us. And they would only let us in 2 at a time, black school, like we stealing something. Now, the main business came from Tri-Cities High School because us, we come there before school, after school, on lunch when we could, back then you could leave campus a little bit just to be back at the right time. You was in 11th or 12th grade, buy a little candy and go back. Well, one day, one of our friends had a lollipop in his pocket. He went in the store to get some stuff, and then he walked out, and they had him in the back of the police car, like they arrested him, but then when they saw the camera, he already had it. But either way it goes, you don't call the police for 25 cents. Like, I think it was 10 cent then, 10 cent lollipop. And so anyway, I told them, I was the school president, I said, we ain't going to that store no more. And they stopped going for like a week. Then I saw a long line out there one day. I got on thank you, rest in peace, Dr. Dr. Herschel Robinson for not suspending me that day. I went and just got on the microphone. I done just went into school, turned on the PA system and said, I'm mad. Y'all better get mad with me. Y'all better stop going to this daggone store. I know something. Y'all, this store should not be in business the way they treating you. And another store comes that we put them out of business. And they stopped going. Store went out of business in like several months.
Yeah.
So I feel
we don't even know our own power.
We don't. We got power in numbers.
Right.
But we don't pull it together. We always like just crabs in the barrel, as they say, kicking against each other. But I'm just so glad, maybe since you're on the podcast, she's gonna invite me back to the breakfast. She used to have me at the breakfast, y'all. She don't let me come to the breakfast no more. I used to go to the breakfast in Richmond all the time when she first got here. So maybe you don't represent us so much.
No, that's because I hadn't been in so long.
Oh, you ain't been? Okay,
I was
feel
protesting.
Better now. Oh, for real? Okay, never mind. Edit that. But seriously, I know I want to get into this Project 25, but I want to talk about, I have this question. I felt bad, even though I'm mostly identified with Democrat. I'm not, because I like you all. It's easier for me to do ministry with Democrats because you always trying to help people. Mm-hmm. The saying would say that if 100 people are being served, the Democrats will serve 100 people to make sure they don't miss the one that deserve it. And it said that Republicans, that they would not help the 100 at all to make sure that they don't help the one that don't need help, which is, I believe that's definitely a caricature, definitely to me sums it up of why I identify more so with Democrats, because you help people way more. And I felt so bad for Chris Christie when he asked Obama to help the state of New Jersey where he was the governor, and the Republicans got mad at him because he asked for help. So he's supposed to let the people suffer. And I figured nobody would ever do that. But now I see Governor Santos. Is it Santos or Santos? DeSantis. What's his name?
I almost said DeSantis.
DeSantis. Look, I ain't got to even name right. DeSantis. I ain't know a D. Look, I'm calling him like Django and having the D silent. DeSantis. So DeSantis saying he not going to accept any help. So we sending trucks down there to help them now, and the churches are sending aid to help because they're turning down money because they feel like that'll help Kamala Harris in the race if they help the people. So you're going to just let the people suffer? And then the Speaker of the House saying no aid is going to go out federally until after the election. That is so demonic to me. So I mean,
that's because they have bought into a person and that person's agenda and don't care about their constituents. Wow. They don't care about the people. And that's become very clear, and I take it back to, it's before 2010, but because it's deeper than that. But I take it back to 2010 when the Tea Party was founded, right after Barack Obama was elected. And they woke up one morning and said, "Oh my God, we elected a black person."
Oh no!
It set in on them that, oh my God, a black person has been elected president of the United States. What us gonna do? And it's so in those midterm elections, it was like, what are we going to do to offset the fact that this black person is sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? So the Tea Party came up, walking around with these shirts that said "Party like it's 1776," and it's like, okay, so what were we in 1776? Yeah. So they were telling us then,
right?
What they were about,
right?
And so it's spiraled after that. But one thing I can say about Republicans, they stick to message and they have long-term plans.
Yes.
And their long-term plan was to take over the courts. To redistrict to the point where they could have majorities and supermajorities, in the states. And they also, a part of their plan was to take over locally, take over school boards, take over city councils, take over state houses, so that was a part of their whole trajectory and their plans, and we as Democrats missed it.
Yes.
And we didn't have the long-term plan. And so that's how they took over the Supreme Court. That's how they've taken over federal courts, putting on people who, I know more about the law and I'm not a lawyer.
Right. Yes.
than many of the people that they put on the bench.
Wow.
Shots
Shots fired.
And so it's like, okay, so how, we were caught sleeping.
Yes.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Reverend King's speech that he gave 4 days before going to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
He gave it in D.C. and it was called "Sleeping Through the Revolution."
Oh wow.
I
got them.
And
CD,
it was,
CD
sometimes we get so caught up, in a moment and in a spirit, and in what's going on at any given point in time, we end up sleeping through a revolution.
Wow.
And that's what we were doing.
Wow.
We were sleeping through. We were caught up in the euphoria of having Barack Obama as president, and having majorities in our Congress, that we kind of slept through that whole process
too long.
and missed what those folks were doing.
Yeah.
And if we miss this moment, we're going to end up with Project 2025.
Right. And see, that's what John Maxwell will tell you. Like, celebrate 24 hours, be sad 24 hours, and get it going, because you will lose momentum either way. Celebrate too long. That's why the Bible says, forget those things which are behind and press toward the mark. Don't remember the good things or the bad things. Press toward what it is we need. I need to ask you this question, and I don't, and I think a lot of times too, when we have Black or somebody you want in there, sometimes we don't ask as many questions, because I think sometimes we feel like we attacking that person that's in office. No, we still got to ask questions.
Right.
It's not the questions when people questioning you is what irritates people, but this is my question. Did we drop the ball? Did we have the time? I just remember a moment when I thought that President Obama was able to put a Supreme Court justice in office, but we passed it up. Did we do that?
Yes.
I thought so, because somebody told me it was a reason and they couldn't do it, but I felt like we could put somebody there. But I think we thought that Senator Hillary is going to win, and we sleep through that?
I mean, we slept through quite a bit of things. And I think that sometimes we as Black and brown people don't hold our electeds accountable. You elected me, hold me accountable.
Right.
Ask me what I'm doing.
Right.
And if I'm not doing what you elected me to do, you got the responsibility to give me the boot, just like you give anybody else the boot.
Right.
And so I think, but let me put a pin in a part of that, or a caveat to part of it. He did appoint someone, in his last year, but Mitch McConnell held it up. Because remember, they had taken over in 2010.
Oh, okay.
And he held up his appointment, by saying, presidents can't appoint somebody in their last year, which was a lie, because Ronald Reagan did it with Justice Kennedy in his last year, and they confirmed him, almost unanimously, I believe. So I don't understand why. I do understand, and I know why.
Right.
The Senate held up Merrick Garland, was the person that Obama had appointed.
Right.
And so it was because they didn't want him basically controlling the court,
right,
which would have happened had they approved Garland.
Right.
But now, fast forward to Trump. After Justice Ginsburg died, they approved Amy Coney Barrett, in a month.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it didn't even go long like most of them. Yeah,
I mean, in a month.
That was like boom.
And so it was in his last year.
Right.
So
that's what I don't understand. I ain't trying to be funny. Why is it that the Republicans always do what they want, but the Democrats don't do what they want? Like, what's the difference? Like, he appointed someone in the last year, Obama didn't, even though they just had held Obama up before. What's the difference? Like, what happens?
Because they stick to message, they stick to points, even if it's wrong.
Right.
They stay on message, they stay on point. And we as Democrats we always want to be inclusive,
right,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
we're supposed to be, we're the big tent party where we want to include everybody, but we don't know how to message.
Right.
And we don't know how to coalesce around points and issues. If you notice in this campaign cycle, They are sticking to the craziest point ever, which makes absolutely no sense, but all of them are saying the same thing,
Yeah.
about immigration
Right.
and the border.
Because they not, see, I think what we forget is, I know I'm getting in trouble for this, it's more ignorant people in the world than intellectual people. Let's just keep it 100. And that's who his message is going to me. It's going to people who don't have their own thought pattern or just 100% racist. I've never ever, and I say this all the time, I've never ever, I'm gonna say I never cared who the president was, but if I voted for Obama and Bush won, I wouldn't be cringing in my seat because I feel like all the presidents to me had moral fibers. Even though they might have done some things you didn't agree with, they still cared about America. I just feel like this individual, I feel like Trump cares about himself more than he cares about the country. And that spirit is trickling down because you're telling me these people are suffering. They still haven't found some of the bodies in Asheville. They still haven't found some of the bodies in Florida. 200 plus people in Asheville. I know they put on the news 100, but the people saying there's 200 plus people missing in Asheville. But you're telling me that you're holding up aid, Speaker of the House, because you don't want any aid to go out before the election. So people are dying and suffering, and you're not using federal funds to send search parties out, to send people who have the tools and the dredging machines in order to drain the flooded areas in order to be able to find people and maybe be able to help people survive. It makes no sense. So this selfishness, let me just use this as a segue. That brings me to the selfishness of this 2025.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason I always wanted to have you here, sometimes, she got this aura, how they say about Michael Jordan, they be scared to talk to her. That's how, even though I got her number, sometimes you be like, but I couldn't help it. Man, she spoke at the NAACP dinner where they was giving out the first scholarship in my name, which was very humbling. Man, she's about to say, oh no, I don't know. I didn't call her that night. I almost called her, but I was scared it was going to ring her phone while she was up there. I almost called her right then, like, you got to be on my podcast. When I tell you, she hit those points and it made you feel it. So Project 2025 is a setup to me to kind of take over the government and almost make it a monarchy. Mm-hmm. I didn't read all of it. I did read some of it, but I knew I had you. So this is my Cliff Notes. Remember Cliff Notes back in the day, UT? I got my Cliff Notes over here. So look, she got the same color as the book too. Hey, that's the color. It was a little brighter. The book was a little brighter. But she got almost a yellow on. So this is my Cliff Notes over here. Tell us about Project 2025, and because to me, it's just rooted in selfishness and greed for power. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand how people even vote for this, because even if you with that party, it puts you in a position where, to me, you don't have any rights as a democracy in order to elect who it is you want to elect. And I'm not. I'm someone that believes, I'm like what Mother Teresa. When they say abortion, I be like, hey, put them up for adoption. But at the end of the day, it's not my body. It's not my body. I'm not the woman. People say I'm not gonna have kids. Well, I'm gonna have to marry somebody young, but I'm gonna have something now. But I'm just saying, I don't know. It's whatever my wife wants. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't. It's not my body. I don't have to carry the baby for 9 months. I don't know if they want to have a surrogate or what. But all I'm saying is, it's not my body, so I can't tell a woman what to do with her body. Whether they say sin or whether they say not sin. In my mind, my thing is God gives you free will. Who am I to take away your free will? If you want to marry who you want to marry, that's on you. I stick with the Bible, but at the end of the day, that's your free will. If God gives you free will, who am I to take your free will away? And just the Project 2025, it just disturbs me. And so I just help me out. Just what is it?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to something that you said at the beginning of that, about the public being, ignorant, so forth. So it's designed that way. I'm a political scientist. So, okay. And one of the things that I teach, or that I've taught to students, is about what's known as the power elite theory. And the power elite theory argues that the masses are ill-informed, and and it's designed for them to be ill-informed. Because those who are at the top of this pyramid, the elite, don't want them to know. And they only want them to know what they want them to know so that they can continue to be at the top of that pyramid. And to drop down to them, this is what I need for you to know. And so that you can continue to do what I want you to do. It's kind of like puppeteering.
Right.
But to get to your question about Project 2025, it's not new. It is not new.
Oh, wow.
It goes back to, I would say, to Nixon and Goldwater's plan in the 60s of the Southern strategy. And that whole idea was that the South was basically solidly Democratic, but it wasn't the Democrats that you know today.
Right.
It was the Democrats of James Eastland, who was a senator from my state, who was a Dixiecrat.
Right.
Or I can't remember the guy from South Carolina who lived to be 100, who was racist to the core. And it was those kind of Democrats.
Yes.
So, but it was solidly Democratic that way. And so Nixon's plan was, how do I get Southern states to turn Republican? So how do I make those white voters, he was talking about white voters, he wasn't talking about black voters,
right,
to vote Republican? And so he came up with a strategy. And that Southern strategy had to do with the fact that there had been riots in Watts, riots in Newark, riots in Detroit, and all of the riots that happened after Dr. King's assassination. So he put it out there to white people. You see what's happening in these urban areas, all of this, cities going amok, I can stop it. So whenever you hear law and order, that's a dog whistle.
Get out of here. I watch Law and Order.
Yeah.
They've been tricking me all this
law
time.
and order means we're going to round up black people.
Wow.
And round up black people and incarcerate them. If you go back to the incarceration rates, for black people, it starts to escalate. Starting in the late 1960s, moving forward. That's when the incarceration rate, particularly for black men, starts to escalate exponentially. When Nixon becomes president, under his whole law and order scheme and his Southern strategy. And you will see then, that's when the voting rates in the South starts to shift from the Democratic Party, that is white voters, from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. It picks up again with Reagan, except Reagan's thing then becomes drugs.
War on drugs.
The war on drugs. Another dog whistle. Who are we going to do this war on drugs on? Black folks. So that becomes another part of mass incarceration. So that's where you see the difference between how you get someone who's charged with crack versus someone who's charged with cocaine.
Yeah.
A crack offense gets a greater time in jail than somebody who's with powder cocaine.
Even though it's cheaper.
So, right.
Crack cheaper.
So, the incarceration rate keeps going up. So with this war on drugs, he comes up with this whole idea of the welfare queen, starts to malign black women, and so that's where you start to see these kind of massive cuts there. So Project 2025 is rooted in that Southern strategy, this war on drugs and so forth. Although what the Heritage Foundation does is to take it to another level. They kind of remap all of what would happen, if there is a second Trump presidency. And folks, y'all need to listen.
Yes.
This is sheer madness. This is an autocratic government in the making. An autocratic government in the making. It means that certain things will disappear, like the Department of Education, gone. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, gone. Because this is a person who does not believe, like what you're seeing right now, what they're doing with FEMA. Funding had already been cut.
Wow.
They had voted on cutting funding to FEMA the week before Helene.
Wow.
So they didn't have the resources, as many resources as they needed to fight that hurricane. They don't believe in climate change. So how do you explain the warming of the waters in the Gulf
And
that leads to 2 massive hurricanes back to back?
And the melting of the icebergs was causing them.
Right. Okay, so in the Department of Education, there's an Office of Equal Rights that deals with any issues of discrimination. That office dealt with 19,000 issues in 2023 alone. So if you get rid of the department, then you're getting rid of all of what it does. So no more dealing with anything dealing with discrimination. The Department of Justice and the Attorney General would come directly under the office of the president. So the Attorney General is not the president's lawyer. The Attorney General is supposed to work for the people. You hear Kamala say, when she was Attorney General in California, it was Kamala Harris for the people. Not Kamala Harris for Kamala Harris.
Right.
So it was it's all about how he can get back at anybody who's done him wrong. So, and you hear him say it, I'm going to be dictator.
What is his definition of done wrong?
If you said something bad about him, anybody who was a part of the prosecution of him, so that Attorney General in New York,
okay, gotcha.
He's coming after Tisha James. The Attorney General in the District Attorney in Atlanta. Coming after her. The judge, in D.C., coming after her. The press, that was the first thing that Hitler went after, was the press.
Yeah, free speech.
And I have said to people, go and listen to the speech that Hitler gave right after he became chancellor.
Yeah.
Go listen to that speech.
Mm-hmm.
It mirrors all of the things that Donald Trump is saying right now. The first speech that he gave after he became chancellor is when democracy ended in Germany in 1933. That is what's going to happen in this country if this man becomes president again. And it baffles me that this race is as close as it is.
I'm baffled as well. I mean, especially the way of the disrespect of women, and how grabbing you in your private parts and things like that. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand when he speaks. A lot of times it makes absolutely no sense.
Did you hear him yesterday talking about Arnold Palmer?
Yeah, man, he would just like Jerry Jones. Remember
he
Jerry Jones?
He just started going off about Arnold Palmer in the shower and Arnold Palmer's, people, part, and I'm like, what does that even have to do with anything?
Man, dude, it made no. I didn't understand it, and it's like, dude, if I said something like that, I was like, but people were just eating it up for whatever reason, and
people still think this man is normal.
I don't know who the target audience. Well, I do know who the target audience is. I don't understand. But this Project 2025, I mean, he pretty much, in the speech, and no one even addressed it from his side when he said, you will never need another election.
Right.
Like, basically, once you do this, I ain't going nowhere.
Right.
Like, it's a dictatorship.
He didn't mean I'm a dictator on day one.
Right.
He meant November 5th will be the last election ever in this country, because there will be no more elections.
Right.
Because I will be your dictator for life, which is what Hitler did.
Right.
In Germany. And he's lying when he tells you he has not read Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf was Hitler's autobiography, and it outlined his political philosophy, what he believed, and what he believed that had gone wrong in Germany following World War I. he's read it.
Right. And then
And even if he didn't read it, somebody gave him the Cliff Notes.
and then the thing with Hitler is, he just wanted to make sure everybody had a common enemy, and he used the Jews as a scapegoat, and that's what he's doing with immigrants. So you can see how the juxtaposition, as you put them side by side, that's what he's doing. He's making the common enemy immigrants. The funny thing is, this whole nation is built on immigrants.
Right.
America is immigrant. You go back to 1776.
And he's married 3.
Right. And it is not like, this is the thing. It's not like the king sent the cream of the crop over here. All right. If I'm the king, I'm not sending my best poet. I'm not letting my best chef. I'm not letting my best journalist. I'm not letting my best politician. I'm not letting the best of nothing go.
Georgia was a penal colony.
Right.
People need to look at the history of
all
this country.
outcasts.
Right.
This country is full of outcasts. And now you trying to outcast the people that you call the outcasts, but this whole country was built on outcasts. It was not the cream of the crop that came over here. You understand? It were the people that were the outcasts, the people that the king didn't want, the people that were marginalized, the people that were just thrown away from society. That's who came over here. And now, the same way that you were treated in England, now you putting that same spirit on other people, which makes absolutely no sense to me. You saying get away immigrants when you were an immigrant yourself. It's not the land that was originally. You left where you were.
And stole it from the natives.
Exactly. So we got Columbus/Indigenous Peoples Day. You know what I'm saying? False history and real history just together, because we don't want to. We told you to lie this long, so let's just keep it going. Anyway.
Right.
See, the funny thing about it is when I had a Republican on here, and when you start saying you keep them ill-informed, and he actually called me and we talked. When we were talking about the, man, help me out, man. You know what I'm talking about. Critical race theory. And I was telling him that's not Black history. It's a theory of why you redline, why you did this, and it's not even taught in schools. But Republicans up at the top, the elite people, as you say, send the messaging down as if it's Black history.
And then they stay on message.
Right, they stay on it. And the funny thing about it is, when we talked about it, YouTube put a violent sticker on it. We ain't talking about violence. Only thing we talked about was critical race theory, which they probably gonna do it again. We just talked about critical race theory is not Black history. It's a theory of why people redline, why people were why were you hanging strange fruit on the trees, why
racism is systemic.
Right, why is it systemic? So, and it's not Black history, but they will make you think it's Black history, and people just be like telling me, I'm like, I'm a flipping educator. I got a doctorate degree in educational leadership. That's what I do. So don't come at me with your half-baked truths that's not even in line with what education is. That's what you learn in law school.
Right.
You learn that as a lawyer, so when you get ready to argue, you will be able to have your closing arguments together, so you will understand how this race plays and how this judge gonna look at your Black, white, yellow client. Right. You understand? And so when he finally researched, he's like, man, you're right. I said, exactly. But you all need to start studying yourself instead of just taking down the sound bites that people send you from above.
Right.
So
and the whole theory was developed by a Harvard lawyer, Derek Bell, a tenured Harvard lawyer who taught it in law school, as you said, and Kimberly Crenshaw, also a lawyer, to help lawyers understand the institutionalization of racism.
Yes.
And as you said, taught in law school.
Not high school.
Right.
Not middle school, not elementary school. Black history is not critical race theory. And those sound bites go out and people don't really read on their own or study on their own and just accept it for what it is.
And when you ask the question, can you tell me a school in Virginia where that's taught?
They'll name one.
No, it's crickets because
it's not true.
It's not true.
It's not true. So I know a lot of people will be upset at this podcast, but we don't care. I know she has to get ready to go to Richmond. So you just give us whatever you want to close out with. I don't care if it's Project 25, whatever. Hold on. Y'all saw the way she just threw out who started critical race and all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm in here like, I know a lot of stuff she's saying, but I'm going to just let you know. I'm like, oh, okay. know what I'm saying? She know the origin of it. So and so started it, and someone else taught it. Man, get out of here. See, when people send you these sound bites, if they can't give you the answers like this, then just anyway. Go ahead. I'm gonna be.
No, I just want folks to understand that Project 2025 was developed by the Heritage Foundation and is over 900 pages. You don't have to read all 900 pages.
Just read her.
Just look, get yourself a group of people and have people read a chapter and share that chapter with you. Read the chapter on education. Read the chapter on criminal justice. Veterans. There's something in there about you. If you have a disability, your money's gone. Because they think that too much money is being spent on disability services. So that money's gone if this is ever implemented.
Wow.
So Head Start's gone. Who depends on Head Start?
Right.
Little black and brown babies who look like us. That's gone. Pell Grants. I went to school on a Pell Grant.
Wow.
That's gone. Kids who depend on student loans. All of that is gone. The folks who wrote this at the Heritage Foundation all worked for Trump in his first administration. So we know what this is about. We know what Project 2025 is designed to do. He's lying when he tells you he knows nothing about it. Every time he opens his mouth, he's lying. Anybody who stands up there for 39 minutes and doesn't talk and just has people playing crazy music, while he stands there and sways. And if you don't think something is deranged about that, then, something is amiss in this country if we want that person negotiating, on our behalf as a nation, and if nothing else can help you make up your mind. This is a man who told you to inject bleach to cure COVID.
Yeah, I remember that.
While he was sending test kits to Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
While millions of our people were dying. So, this is a critical election for November 5th.
It is.
And we need to make sure that it's not just in this presidential race. That's very, very critical that we elect the right person there. But we have Senate races on the ballot. We have school board races on the ballot. We have city council races on the ballot. And that's where they were trying to entrench people.
Right.
To take over.
Because that firewall is
gone. Right. So we need to make sure that we are looking at those down race ballots too. And I know that we don't elect judges here in Virginia, but they elect judges in other places, like North Carolina, in other states. If you have friends there, make sure that they understand that that is critically important, that they are voting for the right people. And in Virginia, back in 2020, when we were when Democrats had both chambers and the governor, we made it easy for you to vote. We made it easy for you to vote.
Wow.
So that's why you have 45 days of early voting. That's why you can register to vote on the same day and vote. So get out there and make sure you take, as Council Member Steve Brown always says, take Lottie, Dottie, and everybody.
But you know what I thought about? I was about to bring up that Councilman Brown told a story about you in one of our preachers' meetings about how you were going to vote. And even though you had tell him about this, he said that you had an experience where they were trying to make you use your driver's license.
Yeah.
And you had wrote the bill where you didn't need a driver's license. Can you share that story? I'm sorry. You got to share that story.
I went to vote on September 20th, which was the first day of early voting. And when I walked in, the person said, okay, make sure you have your driver's license. I said, why? I said, I don't need my driver's license. And they said, but you have to have a photo ID. I said, no, I don't need a photo ID. I said, I need identification.
Right.
I said, but I don't need a photo ID. I said, and if you're telling people they need photo ID, you are breaking the law, because that is not what the law requires.
Right.
I had the bill that passed,
right,
that eliminated photo ID.
So they're telling the person that wrote the bill. Look, they tell the lady that the young lady who wrote the bill what she needed. She like, what? And so what identification do they need? Can you let our viewers know that?
You can
What
have
can they use?
A work ID. You know, you can use your driver's license if that's what you choose to use. But you can have a bank statement as long you can have a utility bill. You know, as long as it's something that has your name and your address on it.
Gotcha.
You know,
that's it. Your name and address on
right.
it. A bill. You heard her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
So don't let anybody tell you that it has to be a photo ID. It does not.
Right, because you may not have. Everybody don't have one. So it's to make sure that voting is equal, so that everybody has a chance to vote. And I hate that they always say driver's license because everybody don't drive.
Right.
So
exactly.
Wow. I know you all learned something today. I know I'm ready for the backlash. So you know what I'm saying? I'm ready for the tweet. So at the end of the day, this is my thing. I know a lot of people keep coming at me because they say a preacher or whatever is not supposed to be a Democrat, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you this. Again, God gives you free will, right? So who am I to take away your free will, right? I'm not saying whatever somebody wants to do in their life, they should have the freedom to do it unless it harms someone else. And so my thing is, it's not me. I sin. We all fall short of the glory of God. So who am I to sit up there and judge anyone? If God gives you free will to work yourself to heaven or the other place, then who am I to take your free will away? So my thing is, democracy and federal and state laws are different than the Christian principles that I stand by. So certain things that may be going on in America, they're not exercised at our church. So at the end of the day, say whatever you want. My thing is, I need my people to be informed, and I need them to understand the agenda of what's going on with Project 2025 and to show it that it's trying to undermine democracy. I know I always hear my political friends telling me every time we vote, this is the most important election. Well, I ain't never said it before. I'm going to tell you for the first time, this to me is the most critical election of my lifetime. I can't say about other lifetimes. I'm sure she know all this stuff because she like a flipping computer. But this is critical because this is an attempt to take away your democratic power. So now they're saying they're going to put someone in and they can dictate who is the next president, who's the next senator, who's the next judge. So that begins to take away and break down the fabric of America. We are a democracy where the people have the power. The people have the power in their vote in order to elect those who lead us. And if they do a great job, we have the power to put them back in office. If they don't, we have the power to take them out of office. And Project 2025 and this Republican thing that's going on right now, I believe that they're trying to take away our democracy, and that's why I need you to vote. And that's why I stand with the Democrats on this issue and what they're trying to fight. I hope they get their messaging together. Right. So they can be cohesive and in line and in sync with each other so they can push forward and make sure that they protect the rights of everyone. Because everyone deserves their rights to be protected and everyone has the right to express themselves, how they express themselves. We don't have the right to tell anyone how to express themselves because we not God. Right. All right, I'm done. Peace.